say when the teacher is ready, the student will appear, or the other way around. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And it's one of my favorite quotes. I love quotes in general. I am a typical teacher or a typical coach who likes metaphors, quotes, idioms, proverbs, poems, and that type of thing. I just find that language, I love rich language, and rich language includes all sorts of things, idioms, proverbs, figure of speeches, metaphors, analogies, and so on. And so when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And when the teacher is ready, the student will appear is one of my favorite all-time quotes. It's one of the old ones as well. And it is just such a profound one that you recognize it when that moment has come that, oh, it means the teacher is ready. What am I talking about? So you will recall that in the previous video, those of you who follow the channel closely, I shared with you that I have been invited to attend a retreat in East London to be co-teacher, co-coach at a retreat, which was a first of its kind. I think we have to emphasize that it is the first of its kind in South Africa, where deaf women are gathering for the purposes of healing, for the purposes of offloading, for the purposes of understanding and taking a break. You know, a retreat is also just a break from everyday life. I will talk about what a retreat is and what a retreat is not in a different video. For now, I just want to honor what I said I would do and just honor the moment that I was entrusted with, because it's not every day that someone says, come and teach or come and help this community that has a special need, or a community that is living with a disability. As people who quote unquote normal, we tend to ignore a lot of things. You know, we tend to take a lot of things for granted. And I did say this in the previous video, but now that I've had the experience, I want to say it even more. And so I want to share my experience. Obviously, I will not get to everything. I am still processing. It is Friday as I'm recording this video, Friday the 10th, and I returned home because I only taught for 2 days. I was back home on the 7th, and oh my God, I couldn't function on the 7th at all. I just sat on the couch and drank tea and slept. I thought I would have energy on the 8th. It was even worse. On the 8th, I could barely keep my eyes open. That's what happens when you hold space for people. And then on Thursday, I felt a little bit better. I even made some notes of what I want to share on this video. But as you can see, I'm not looking at any paper. I don't have any paper because the notes are not going to cut it. I'm just going to share what's in my heart and what I experienced and whatever wants to come through, to come through. So I want to start with Asanda Kachwa herself, the client that invited me to co-coach with her, to co-teach with her. Asanda Kachwa, the reason I want to talk about her is because it's just to try and show you just how much us so-called normal people do not pay attention when we need to. So when Asanda approached me, she approached me in 2023. She was looking for a coach and she somehow found me. You know, I am very visible and very available on social media, especially Facebook. She apparently saw my short little clips on TikTok of my teaching. She followed me on Facebook for a while to see my writing because I write quite a bit on Facebook on my page. And she said she studied me for a while before she could approach, because she was clear that she wanted a Black coach that understands African spirituality, that understands deep concepts like shadow work and chakra system and you name it, things that I know deeply. A coach that also understands Western way of doing things. You know, she had a list. You know, I was on her list. You know, when we do a list of the men we want, tall, dark, and handsome, wealthy, big, well endowed, all those things. She had a list of what kind of life coach she wanted, and it led her to me. And our coaching session went on for a year. She was one of the first few that I coached for a year. And like I said in the previous video, those are the kind of clients I actually want. I don't want anyone who wants to do less than 8 sessions, which is a minimum, and the longer the better, because that's where you see proper transformation. That's where you see growth. It's like anything. For you to have the body that you want, you need to be going to gym and eating a particular way almost as a lifestyle for a very long time. It is the same with life coaching and I think therapy and so on. It's not a press a button. press a button and you are cured. It's not a quick fix. It is long-term committed work. I'm not coaching her now. She is a coach herself, but from time to time she comes back and we reflect on something. She got triggered by something. I help her process it, but I am not holding her hand like we used to in 2023. So in 2023, she approaches and, we have our first session. In our first session, she shared something that I had never heard of before. And that is, she was raised by two deaf parents. Her parents couldn't hear. And that immediately, knowing what I know, having coached a lot of people, but also just understanding the importance or how much a family dynamic can impact a person, I immediately just went, what? If you are living with two parents who have a disability, particularly, and then a disability that makes them not understand the world the way you do, that immediately makes you grow up immediately, just like that. And without telling Asanda's story, because it's not mine to share, she had to be that child that grew up very, very, very fast, who had to play the parent role. And I mean, let's wait for her book and let's wait for her to share her story. So I coached her through the process of what she's gone through as a child, how it led her to certain things that we're not going to get into. And then as I was coaching her, I'm still not recognizing something that was just always in my face every day, and I'll explain what that is. Until now, until this weekend, did it click that, oh, you are that Asanda that used to interpret the news every single day on our TV. Because I remember the news anchor, especially E! News, the news anchor would say, I am so and so, and I am accompanied by the deaf interpreter, sign language interpreter, Asanda Kachwa. And Asanda, in her humility, she would say in the coaching sessions that, I used to be on big stages. I used to interpret for Thabo Mbeki. I used to be the main interpreter for Thabo Mbeki. I used to interpret on TV for a very long time. The news, I was on the news every night for a very long time when I used to live in Joburg. And mind you, it only clicked this past weekend when I saw her for the first time. By the way, we met for the first time physically. We were on Zoom all along and on WhatsApp. But I mean, this is the world we live in. You are friends with people on social media for years before you meet in person. So no big deal over there. But only when she told me again and I see her in person, and do I actually see that? Oh, and she's like, exactly. Exactly. This is what's irritating about us hearing people. You just saw a little block of someone who's doing sign language and it didn't even bother to look proper. Even when I said I'm Asanda Kachwa for our session, it didn't ring a bell. And as even though every night watching the news, they would mention my name. And us hearing people do not see that. We don't see people who live with disability. And I'm not blaming us. I'm just trying to say we are not aware of a lot of things, and we are the ones with all the senses. We are the ones with all the supposed gift. So I wanted to start with Asanda. So Asanda then was in my coaching for a year, and then in 2024 I created a coaching course, which, by the way, just by the way, as a hint, it is coming back. For 2026, I will be running that course again. If you're interested, there's information somewhere here. I'm sure you can see the poster. If you want to be part of the waiting list, just email me. Send an email and we'll send you the form for you to be on the waiting list to join the course. Not so that you start your own coaching practice per se, but coaching skills are going to be more needed now more than ever. If you're a parent, if you're a manager, if you lead a team, if you're a pastor, if you're thinking of getting into pastorhood, if you're a counselor, if you're a community leader, if you are a family leader, coaching skills are what you are going to need to navigate through the times that are coming. Okay, so that was a side note. So then Asanda becomes a coach herself. She does other programs with other institutions, with other people. And she tells me that, I'm thinking of doing my first retreat for the deaf community. And I'm like, yeah, go for it, go for it. Little did I know that she's going to say, yeah, but I need you to come and help me. I need you to co-coach with me, to co-teach with me. In fact, I need you to lead the first 2 days, if you don't mind, because it would be my first time. I would like to learn from the best because I think you're the best. She thinks I'm the best. And I mean, my initial instinct was, yeah, sure, yes, I'm coming. It was an instinctive bodily response. So the body knew that it wanted to. And then later, I remember my logic kicking in saying, wait a minute, what did I just agree to? First of all, I don't know how I'm going to be. I don't know how these people are going to take me. I don't know. It's going to be weird. You're thinking of all things that are not there. And I tried all sorts of ways to try and get out of it. I made all sorts of excuses that, yeah, no, but my coaching, I do deep guided meditation. How are they going to take my journal? How are they going to take my journal prompts? And she's like, I am one of the best sign language interpreter in Africa. You're going to be fine. And I'm like, no, but I live in Beaufort West. There's no airport here. How am I going to get there? But even if I go to George Airport, which is how I travel, every time I travel, I go to George Airport. But generally, I'm traveling either to Cape Town or Joburg. And George Airport only goes to OR and Cape Town. Only in festive season do they add Durban. I think I've never seen them going to direct East London. Flights go to OR, Cape Town. Festive season, they go to Durban as well because tourists would like to fly to Durban, Cape Town, and obviously OR. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm not gonna be able to get there. How am I gonna get there? I no longer drive long distances. I don't, guys. I don't. Anything that's more than 10 kilometers, miss me on that. I ain't driving. I did say it in one of the videos. I get driver. And then I'm thinking, but yeah, Beaufort West is the central. You cannot go to Joburg. You cannot travel to Joburg, travel to Bloemfontein, Kimberley, Northern Cape, Western Cape, Eastern Cape without passing Beaufort West. It is literally central. You are literally in the middle of everything. So take the Intercape or take the Greyhound. The buses go there, and I'm like, Intercape is actually it's quite a decent bus, by the way, guys, if you don't know. And I check, and there is a direct bus from Beaufort West to East London. And where it stops, Asanda lives literally 3 minutes away from where the from where the buses stop. So there is no excuse. It's not like it's going to stop by the Pundus somewhere and she has to drive for kilometers. No, as the bus lands, her home, her beautiful apartment is literally 5 minutes away. And she's like, I think you can take the Intercape, Sis Lebo. Please don't back out of this. And eventually I surrender and we do this. I first ask her like things. I'm like, do I need to prepare a particular theme? Is a specific subject you want me to teach on? And she's like, no. I don't know why you're asking me this because it's not like you. And I'm like, yeah, but do I have to have a presentation? And she's like, Slebo, how are they going to look at the presentation when they need to look at me sign for them? Because their language is in the eyes and in the hands and in the energetics of things. So they can't be looking at a presentation when they're supposed to hear me sign for them. So don't come with your PowerPoint. And I'm like, yo, so no theme, no PowerPoint. So how are they going to do my guided meditations? And she says, we'll figure it out together. I also don't know. And I'm like, okay, so journal prompting is like, yeah, but you can say the journal prompts and I'll sign them and they will do their journaling. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I surrendered even more. And I'm like, all right, let me do this. Indeed, I get on the bus, which was a surprisingly smooth ride. Very, very smooth. I actually enjoyed it, especially coming back. I enjoyed it more returning, I suppose, because the work has been done. I had rested. I had time to just reflect on what I had done. And it wasn't that bad. It's about 7 hours with the bus, but apparently with the car is less than that. It's about 5 hours or so. Anywho, day one I arrive. I'm not gonna talk about the other things going to Mdantsane, her being a host, but I arrived on the 4th because I needed to acclimatize, see the venue, see the space and all that. So I arrived on the 4th. On the 5th, that was the first day, that is teaching day one. And I remember wanting to wear a particular fancy dress and have a makeup on and so on. And when the delegates arrived, I knew that it's not a fancy dress type of vibe. It is a relax and do your work type of vibe. So they came in. So now I want to talk about what the deaf community and the deaf women are like, you know, and then I'll talk about the actual teaching and, what I taught, and then I'll conclude. So as they arrive, the first thing that struck me is, okay, these are ordinary women like you and me who have ordinary things like you and me. The first thing I noticed was everyone was talking. And I'm like, oh, so just like us hearing and speaking people, we can all talk at once. You know how when you meet up with a group of friends and everybody's talking, this one's talking to this one, Rabuak Aufel, they also, it's normal, they also do the same thing where this one is signing with that one is trying to talk, that one's trying to catch this one's attention. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like this. And then the second thing is I noticed that just like us, they have personalities, different personalities. I'll tell you what I mean, and I hope I'm not going to be offensive. There's one who Pumeza has sounds. When she communicates, she makes a lot of sounds, meaning there's like when she signs, there's sounds that comes out of her. And then another one who's Gugu makes absolutely no sound. All she does is just sign. She just uses her hands only, and there is no sound coming. And then others are elaborate, like the hand gestures are more pronounced, more exaggerated. And then there's the clown, just like us, others are, there's the comedian who, I mean, every time she did some signs, she communicated, they would just all burst out laughing. So Asanda would explain to me that this is what she's saying, this, and she is hilarious. She is hilarious. And I immediately relaxed and I'm like, okay. So the only difference between me and this woman is that they are not in a hearing world. They do not have sound and they do not hear voices, but they hear and see everything else just like you and me. So they don't have the sense of hearing. That is the only thing. And they've developed a way of communicating with each other and with the world, which is through sign language. Then I made, they went to sit and eat as I prepared the room because I just wanted some time to pray and just to allow for whatever forces, whatever ancestors, whatever gods, whatever Holy Spirit to be with us as we start day one. And I was wearing a gray dress and, one of my green beads. You've seen my beads here. It was the green and white ones. And I held my hair high with a white thing to hold my hair. And they came in. And you know that a session is working and it's going well when there's tears before even a hello. And as everybody sat down, the energy started to shift. And there was an energy of tension, but good tension, and a little bit of calm. I was very calm because I was holding space. So the calmness was just to spread it around so that people can feel that they're in a safe place. And as everybody sat down, I greeted and Asanda, my co-host who was signing for me, signed whatever I was saying. And I began. And before I even went far, there were tears in the room. People were already crying. And I spoke, I prayed. And I said something that I always say, which I believe it with all my heart, that whenever women are gathered or whenever people gather for something like that, for a healing, a spiritual, a growth, a personal development, I believe that our souls had agreed that on that day, we shall all meet at that point and remind each other why we are here and remind each other that we are all here for the healing and restoration of the world. And that is my favorite quote from my other guru, my other teacher, Ndate Rob Bell. Rob Bell says, we are here for the healing and restoration of the world, each and every one of us. And I led with it and I reminded them that, out of all the senses, it is the hearing that they don't have, not because of a disability, not because of a punishment, but because they do not need it. They do not need to hear. They are hearing something that you and I, who are in the hearing world, cannot hear. And my core teaching was, especially on day two, My core teaching was to remind them that there is something that they are hearing that us, the people who think we are normal, cannot hear. And I think it's about time that we listen to them, that they bring forth what it is that they were gifted with. Because I believe that the deafness is part of the gifting, it's part of what they're here to bring to the world. And because they live in a society or in a world that only revere us, the normal people, we overlook them, we don't see them, what, and which makes them obsessed with hearing people and wanting to adjust to this world instead of allowing themselves to be in this world and give what they gave. And I taught a lot. And when I ended on my last day when I was leaving, they couldn't even let me go. And someone says she has never, I mean, she brought me to tears. And she said she has never, ever, ever in her entire life, and this is a woman who's in her 60s, has experienced something quite like that. She does say that we do workshops, we attend workshops where they're empowering us, hey, confidence, this, hey, self-esteem, hey, helping them deepen in their language and all that, but nothing that speaks to their hearts, that speaks to their souls, like what the teachings have done. And I went ahead of myself there a little bit. So yeah, day one, I mean, when it started, like all day ones, people just offload, they offload what the problems they have. There's also a guardedness about what they share. So two things either happen. You either get on day one of any retreat or any workshop, I always get two types of delegates. You get the delegate who just vomits everything out loosely, like no direction, or you get the one that's guarded. From time to time, you'll get someone in the middle, but it's always the case. It's either they're guarded on day one or they overdo things. And then on day two, there's a balance. The one who has guarded shares, and the one who has over diarrheaing has held back a little bit, and there's an equilibrium. And you know that you are a good holder of space when that happens. So day one, after my opening remarks, I asked everybody, why are you here? Why did you agree to this? And oh my word, the things that come out, which makes you realize for it, these are normal women with normal problems, except their problems are slightly extra because of the disability and living in a world that doesn't recognize them. I have learned so much. In fact, let me pack what I've learned for the conclusion. And so they shared the experience. And my not homework, my exercise for day one was list top 5 of your problems and make a list of, if these problems didn't exist, how would your life be? And most of them struggled to even articulate how their lives would be without these problems because they've identified so much with that problems. And this is not a deaf thing. This is a normal. This happens all the time. Whenever I get a client for the first time, whether it's one-on-one or it's a workshop, it's a retreat, after a list of problems, I would say to a person, okay, fine, don't ignore them. These are your problems. List them, fine. And then can you make me a list of what you want, how your life would be if these problems were all solved? And people generally struggle to come up with that. And therein lies my teaching. Then I help them develop this side so that you are not problem focused. You are present. First of all, there's this space here, there's the presence, and then that presence then lead you to what you actually want. And slowly, slowly, your life is lived like this. It's lived in the present moment and what you want, present and what you want. You cannot get what you want until you are present. And you certainly cannot get what you want if you are stuck here in the problem gazing. And then day two was more of a lecture. I was teaching, I taught on the 3 bodies, the physical body, the emotional body, the spiritual body. I taught on, uh, I helped deaf people meditate, which is quite fascinating. I gave some affirmations. I taught on prayer, what prayer should entail, what is an empowering prayer, what is not an empowering prayer. And I mean, I'm just summarizing here. You had to be there, which then brings me to what I've learned. What I've learned is that if ever there was a doubt that I am the teacher that I think I am, all those doubts have evaporated, all of them. And I say this with authority because I taught for 2 days straight without notes, without a script, without a PowerPoint, without referring to any book. I just shared. And I know that a lot of it was also download because, I mean, she's uningi. On day one, I gifted every single person with what they needed to hear, what they needed on that day, all of them. What do I mean by that? I mean, I would hear the problem and I would hear how they would struggle with the life that they want. And I would say something that I cannot repeat now because I don't remember that they really, really needed. Oh, so many tears. So many tears of relief. I mean, there's this girl who feels that her mother doesn't love her, and obviously because of her deafness, and that the mother prefers the hearing people. And my gift to her was actually, that's not the kind of love you want. You are a bringer of love yourself. The love that you think you want is within you. And I literally saw her face light up, you know, light up literally. Others would just scream and cry after, sharing whatever that I shared with them. So yeah, what I've learned is that if I ever doubted for 1 minute, those doubts are gone now. Those doubts are gone. Everything that I've ever learned, and I don't think it's everything, of course, but I have been at this for a long time. I have been at this for a very, very long time. I've been teaching unofficially since 2012, but officially since 2017. So this is not small. This is a long time. I've been pouring and accumulating knowledge and teaching and so on. So all that experience, all that wisdom, all that knowledge came to the fore. Whether these women would have been blind or deaf or hearing, I think I would still have managed to do this. We tend to think we need aid all the time when actually you are the vessel, you know the work. You know the work. So trust the process and trust the work. The second thing I learned is that deaf women communicate, their sense of communication comes from the eyes, the hands, and energetic and intuition. So they're gifted with a heightened sense of intuition. And that's something that I had to remind them. And I didn't even know that. I had to remind them that you might not be hearing with your ears, you are hearing with something else. And I taught them that they need to start trusting the body more. And the information that came out when I said that, as they were sharing experience after experience of just energetically understanding that this person doesn't come with good intentions, just listening to the body and trusting the energy. I have learned that there is a lot of work out there. There is a lot of healing work to be done. And that it's probably the time for the healing work to actually be rolled out proper. I've also learned that hearing people, women like you and me, men like you and me, and I've said this in the previous video, but I'm saying it even more now. We take this for granted. We take people like Bolebupule, Bokoko Joy, Joan Sebeza. I'm just going to mention my friends who are in the industry, Kagisom Simango. A lot of them, we take this work for granted when there is so much need for it. And we are here now. We can do it now. We are accessible now. There's going to come a time where it would be very difficult to access someone like Kagiso or someone like me, not because we'd be up there, high there, but because that time has passed, Um, I want to use Eckhart Tolle, and I've used this example of Eckhart Tolle a few times before, maybe not here on YouTube. That when Eckhart Tolle started his spiritual teaching, his lessons and all that, the very first time he went into a hall where people are supposed to have come and nobody showed up, or it was only him and the organizer, and he just said, yeah, well, we still have an hour. We might as well just do the work, just the two of us. And today, if you want to see Eckhart Tolle, if you want to sit in Eckhart Tolle's class and to be at Eckhart Tolle's feet, I think the date you would get, if you were to want to book now, the date you would get would probably 2029 or 2028. There'd be a waiting list for you to just get there. So I don't know. I don't want to make you feel bad or to guilt you out, but I'm just saying there's access to people who can help us, and we need to use it while we still can, because there's going to come a time where you actually can't get hold of them at all. And hearing people do not appreciate it, which brings me to the last point I want to make of that woman who brought me to tears. So I was saying my goodbyes. I was doing my final round, and then I allowed for 30 minutes for everybody to give them their parting shot or, what they think before I leave, to say goodbye to me so that it's not rushed or I leave it hanging. And this woman said, and she has a loud personality, her signing is over the top. And Asanda is such a great facilitator and interpreter that she doesn't only interpret the words, she also interprets the tone, the volume, and all that, matching the speaker. And she just said, I'm getting goosebumps again thinking about it. One of the things that just hit me hard and it brought me to tears was how she says, never ever in her entire life had anybody who is hearing cared this much for them as to spend 2 nights, 2 days and 2 nights, just listening to them, just sharing, just teaching, just pouring. Because she says, she could see that I'm pouring myself to them. And for that, she will never, ever, ever forget me, even if she'll never see me again. Except she will see me again because I do plan to go back, looking at what Asanda has in store. But that moved me to tears, as you can see. My friends, there are so many important things that we could be doing with our time. We are here for the restoration and healing of the world. What I want to leave you with today in today's video is that look around you. For once, look outside your immediate needs, outside your immediate needs. And I'm not saying ignore your needs and leave your job or whatever, but I'm saying there's so much help needed in many communities that are ignored, that you could start looking at and be the one to help or be the one to start something, be the one that brighten that corner. Asanda identified the deaf community for obvious reasons. That's her community. Asanda says her home language, her first language is sign language, which is true. So who is in your community and who needs help? Can we begin where we are? Can we look around and say, who needs help, instead of just being consumers of absolute rubbish? I'm not saying don't be on social media. I am on social media, we know that. But there's a lot more that we can do to help ourselves as Black people, to help those who can't help themselves, to help animals. There are people who are laughing at me that I have cats and I'm taking care of them like their children. What else are we here for? Do you really and truly think we were brought onto this world to go and work and to consume and to watch Netflix and to have a retirement annuity and to die? Can't be. It cannot be. Something overtook what it is that we're supposed to do here. And it cannot be that we will spend our daylights working at some firm and on the 25th we receive whatever we receive and we pay bills with that and rinse and repeat till the end of time. I don't believe that's the true reality of why we are here. And with that, my friends, I don't want to say too much. I said I will be here for a long haul, and I will see you on the next video. There should be more regular now. There should be more frequent rather, because the next trip I have is in November for my retreat. In case you like what you're hearing and you want to join me for a retreat here in Oats Warren, around in Klein Karoo, in the Garden Route, but do email me if you want to come to our retreat. It is short notice, I know, but I don't advertise my retreats anymore because I think it's sacred work. If you want to be part of my community and get to know when I have a retreat, when I have a workshop, when I have what, you can only get it if you are part of my Patreon, because then you will get it via the newsletter. If you're still here, do join Patreon. And if you're still here and you're not subscribed to this channel, do the right thing. It is very annoying to say to people like and subscribe, but I do understand why we do it, so do like and subscribe and share. And this is my story. I cannot wait to hear yours.